What's up, guys? Welcome back to another podcast. This week we don't have Colin. He was feeling too sick to join us. Sadly, he couldn't be here.
Yeah,
I expected a little more of you. But as usual, we have some cool stuff that's lined up for this week. Really cool podcasts. Some special people who recorded some videos with us, which I think is really cool and super duper awesome. But as always, if you guys are excited about the new set coming out, excited about the new format, whatever it may be, but you want to help support the channel, you can visit the link in the description below, which goes to Happy Little Hug Factory's website. You can pre-order the next set. All purchases made to that website through that link help support the things we do here, in case there's something they have that you may want. But yeah, definitely visit that. And also to patreon.com/TCG Scrubs. You guys become patrons, and we do Patreon podcasts. We do some videos every now and then,
gameplay.
There's gameplay. We also had if you're looking to Alternate Souls, when we received the product from EG, we did an opening while we kind of discussed it and looked at it and like, oh, that's cool. That's up on that channel as well if you want to get a better look at some of the stuff that came in there. And
and then I know Collins sometimes does some little behind the scenes editing stuff, which some people might like.
Yeah, whenever he's working on some cool project, he'll share it with everybody, especially early, just to get some opinions on it. You can also find on there. Oh no, this will be a main channel thing, but on Alternate Souls Talk, there should be something coming out this weekend that has to do with play, so you guys can check out how the game works. I think we only had one mistake that we made on there, and it was actually all Colin. And I just followed suit the way he did. But yeah, patreon.com/TCG Scrubs if you want to help support the channel. The mistake we made was you can pay one to move a square, and you can only move forward, but he was moving to the left and right, like a little cheater. And so you guys can see what I'm talking about when that video comes out as to what that means. But just if you're watching this and then you watch that later, just keep in mind that there was a mistake made on that. And Colin fashion of it's fine, is letting the video go up and release.
Man, he's just not here to defend himself, is he?
No, he's not. He does not get the opportunity. His tummy hurts, so.
Oh, I'm sure it hurts.
But anyway, so this week on the podcast, seeing as Worlds is happened halfway over by now, this podcast comes out Saturday at 11 a.m. So if you're listening and watching this as soon as it came out, 11 a.m. What time is that, Joey, in Japan? Look on your phone. 11 a.m. in Central Standard Time. So it'll be Japan, whatever time that is. They may be over with. They may be midday. But this is going to be a podcast for kind of going over the meta calls on that. We have a interview that Colin did, so he's kind of here on the podcast in a way, with Lauchlan from Australia. He's part of the Team Not Nice on his way to Worlds. I know he's a top GP finisher, and this is his first time at Worlds, I believe he said. Mm-hmm. And so you get to hear him and what they went through to test and get ready. And then we have Josh Patton, who's team captain of
Team USA.
Rogues Guild, talking about the stuff. I forgot the name of the team, and I'm on that team. It blanked. When you're on the spot, sometimes things don't flow the same way. But I brain farted. And then the panic set in, no, I can't brain fart this one because that makes me look even worse.
Yeah. It is funny though. They've created more like a super team.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to there. We're going to do some.
I know. I'm just giving some people
we have interviews from each of them. I did the one with Patton, and we'll take a look at those. But it's kind of also bouncing off our meta calls from the previous weeks, where we called Machines and Isis and Adam, and was there anything else I'm missing that we may have said?
No. I think Machines and Adam were the big ones. I think that's kind of all that we ended up mentioning.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and just jump into it.
Hold on.
Okay.
So 11 a.m. on Saturday should be 4 a.m. on Sunday for them.
Oh, they'll be done with day one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so day one will be over. This is kind of, I guess, you can hear what were the thought processes behind going into this and who made top 8 as a result of the work that went into it.
It's gonna be really cool.
So we'll we'll go ahead and roll into these. This will be a shorter podcast week. We don't have Colin with us, so it'll be a little bit less conversation. I guess he probably would have interjected with a lot of stuff here, especially defense earlier. But
that guy, man, he just loves to just interject. Just interject.
Anyways, we'll go ahead and play this first one, which is from Lauchlan, again from Australia, and we'll let that play out.
All right, guys, I'm here with Lauchlan. He's from Australia, heading to his first Worlds event. He said he was mentioning how he has topped a couple GPs here, and so we're gonna, since this is coming out in the podcast after Worlds, we're recording this beforehand, but we'll talk about sort of what deck he's running, sort of the thought process, what he might think he's going to see, and stuff like that. And this will be kind of fun because we're recording this, and as you guys are listening, we can compare to the event itself and what ended up happening. So this should be pretty interesting. So for people who aren't aware, if you want to introduce yourself and sort of how long you've been playing Force Will and how long maybe you've been playing competitively as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as name's Lauchlan. Been playing Force Will since the start of Lapis Cluster, like right between as Alice Cluster ended and CFC was announced. I kind of jumped in then. I've been competitive since the start, essentially. I come from a wide variety of like competitive games such as Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, things like that. So I've dabbed in them all, and like I do somewhat successfully in a lot of them. So it translates to Force Will quite easily for me to become competitive. I started hitting a string of GP tops since Melbourne 2018 in the Sherry format. Every GP I've attended since I've topped, I've only missed one. So we only get 3 a year, so in the last 5, 6 I've topped. But yeah, other than that, yeah, no, first world, so I'm excited. I've just landed in Japan as of like late last night, / this morning. So I'm just hanging out at the airport waiting for the rest of the Aussies.
And you're there with a sort of a group or a team as well?
Yeah, so well, we're representing Australia. So like I said, I'm from Australia, but I have an individual team with Team Not Nice, which have about 8 friends or so. Like we constantly play together, and we have a few of us, 3 of us are in Worlds this year together. So you'll see Alex, he's also commentating with Jeremy.
Oh, nice.
He's on the team, so you'll see our like people in jerseys and stuff like that. And like if anyone does say hi or please in the future at GPs or anything in America, you know, always say hi, because we are planning to try and come to America next year at some point.
Oh, awesome. So we had talked, and you had said you had listened to it. We had talked on our most recent podcast. If you guys had listened to it, I'd recommend checking. Maybe I guess now it's too late, but you can check that out. And also a WOTCG. I did a response podcast to some of it, but. We were discussing what our predictions for Worlds were. As a summation, I think I had said that it's going to be hard to tell what exactly will be at Worlds, but my guess was there was going to be something machine related, and I feel like I said something else, but I forget. I think I said perfect Loki deck might have been a thing. I'm blanking on what Oscar and Joey said, but.
One of them was like a Dark Alice based deck, like like Adam, or like the deck that revolves around Dark Alice essentially. But like usually, from my memory, it was like aggro, some form of like kind of alter deck, and then like a control-y mid-range deck.
Yeah,
that's how I pick it up.
So we'll start with what are your thoughts on those predictions?
I actually think like for the most part, like you're quite right. Besides machines, I don't think actually machines is well positioned at all in the meta, because there are faster aggro variants playing like harvesting season and stuff like that are much better to play than machines. Machines definitely has a lot of resiliency, but I don't think it's like going to be very popular. So if it does see play, it's going to be like dedicated machine players who maybe like, you know, because of how hard it was to get newer cards from the last set, like decided to fall back on something they've played for a bit, stuff like that. Because like I know in a lot of countries still like not everyone has play sets of like Dark Alice or, you know, the new Athenia, for example. So like having those kind of tribal picks in aggro is really good. And machines is still a good deck. I think with like going back into after playing Cluster and stuff like that, and now getting Kaguya and like Laurite still in the format, and there's just so many 1-mana answers that people can play, machines kind of falls off a little bit. But like the other aggro decks have a lot of resiliency because they're playing like a stammer and things like that. So they only have to punch face for like 20 damage realistically, and they can do a lot of burn for the rest. So that's where I'm at in terms of like an aggro deck. And then I personally think like green-white control is the best deck in the format, like by a long margin, has the safest matchups into everything. And then it also can play very aggressive if you want to play like the Adam version, so you get to play Alasus Incarnate and things like that, so you can be more offensive, so your games aren't going on forever.
Is that what you ended up settling on for your deck?
At the moment, yeah, I am playing green white control in some form of capacity. There's like you can play like Hanzo, Brunhild, or Adam. There's pros and cons to each way you build it and stuff like that. So it's very what I expect from the day. But I'll be playing a Kikuyu based deck essentially, because I think that like a 2-mana Seal of Wind of Light as a creature that has upside with an ability that can get turned on quite easily is quite good. And if anyone actually's been following like events leading up to Worlds, Australia had their last event in September, which was Cluster, and I played green white control then as well, with like Algernon and things like that. So it's just like it's something I've already played and established I know how to play, which is quite good, and I know it's consistent over like a 7-8 round event.
So you say it's got pretty good matchups against most things. Is there anything that you're afraid of seeing that it might be bad against, or do you think it's got a high enough baseline that you're pretty confident against most deck types?
I'd say your worst matchups are still like 55-45, and I think the worst matchup is the Brunhild Green-White Mirror if you're playing Adam. So at the moment I'm playing Adam as my rule of choice with my build, and I think the Brunhild can beat that in the mirror just because Blade of Faith is a very strong card to deal with like Alasus Incarnate and Dark Alice in particular, which are like I've found in testing cards you want to keep on the line, you want to protect them at all costs and kind of things like that. And a lot of the control mirrors will be fighting over that. And then there's like random decks like you can like the Lich Ult to discard that like turbos out, trying to loop your hand out and stuff like that. Like they're quite strong as well against it, but I feel like with 4 Lorites and stuff like that, and if you know the tech choices, there are some choices you can play that like can help reduce discard. So because this is coming out after like Worlds have started, in my sideboard I'm playing Farisha Honorable Thief, which is like a TSW super rare. I believe it's double white. When she's discarded by an ability opponent's controls or at random, you gain a light gem and she bounces back to your hand from the graveyard as a triggered ability. So with that, you can mitigate like getting discarded and stuff like that. So a lot of like the high variance in like Lich turbo discard your hand is gone then, which means you're just a better deck essentially because they're just playing. It's an alter deck that's just playing a bunch of discarded. Inherently, discard is 1-for-1, so it's not very good. So when you're just discarding the same thing over and over again, and they have to put their resources in, it's not as strong for them.
That's pretty. I remember that card, and obviously at the time glazing over it. But yeah, that's a good point. That especially with the sheer volume of discard, that here we are at the late end of the cluster. That definitely could be very useful as just basically a discard resource. Yeah,
exactly. And there's like the cat as well, the green one. People can play that if they want, but it's like I don't know. I feel like black has a lot of removal, so that's the justification. It's like it's easier just to hold it and have them discard it, and it doubles as addition removal if you get like different color gems. So I guess there's upside there. It's very interesting idea, but I'd say green white is the safest to play, has the best matchups across the board, but is also one of the decks that's easily punishable if it's not in the hands of a good player. And I expect, like for the most part, a lot of people at attending Worlds will know how to play it and know how to punish the people that don't. It's like of anything is, like the more familiar you are with a deck, to know how far you can push it and things like that.
Yeah, would you say it's similar to what we were seeing with the guild decks, where they're technically a really high power level, but most people who go and play that, you don't have to worry about them being too much of a threat. But if in the hands of a skilled player, then it's pretty much like extremely hard to get around.
Yeah, no, that's essentially it, yeah. And then like I've tested Perfect Loki and stuff like that, as you guys mentioned. And Perfect Loki's like decent still. I think what most people might be caught off guard is Perfect Loki New Frontiers isn't a Neo Ragnarok deck. Neo Ragnarok is very subpar in New Frontiers. Just from the sheer, from like how hard it actually is to Neo Ragnarok, unless you're like mono blue focus playing Shadow of Kronos and Fenrir and stuff. I think like the Perfect Loki decks that focus on being black and have alter and just controlling the field by repeatedly able to like use the Perfect Loki as a resonator, and then just have a bunch of powerful 3-drops and stuff is a lot better as a like kind of mid-rangey control deck than like focusing on trying to neo-rag your opponent, which has many answers in the form of like board wipe with Brunhild. It has Kigu, you can still counter it, you know, it's stuff like that. So
yeah, it's a very interesting state when putting in a bunch of free giants is okay, but that's one thing I'd realized at the Vite Ramen tournament, because you know there isn't a lot of big tournaments going on right now, so I haven't been able to see what was going on and seen that Perfect Loki just being used as a field wipe resource where you just do the harvest the 10 cards into your graveyard and then you just keep recycling Perfect Loki and clearing and controlling your opponent's field essentially for the rest of the game relatively easily. I thought was something that is obvious, obviously, because it's quick cast and all that, but didn't really come to mind until I actually saw it in play.
yeah, no, exactly. It's going back to like the final battle syndrome. You know, like everyone would, the first when that card came out, would play like many copies of that card, obviously because it's just a cheap way to control the field. And Enforcer Will, like I find coming from Magic and stuff like that, it's a game where you win by controlling the field. You don't have to control your opponent's hand or like your life points or their life points. Like if you have field control, you're just going to generally end up winning because there's no true combo deck anymore. Like back when Lapse Cluster was in, we had the Uber combo, which is essentially like I would say one of the least or the newest like forms of combo because it was just like I win that turn essentially. But there's nothing that I know there might be, I guess personally, besides like some really janky stuff like 36 Moon Karmic Reversal, you know, Isis or something, or Brunhild or whatever. But like for the most part, like if you control the field, you win the match in this format, I feel. And like so cards like Fallen Angel, Fiery Vengeance, the black to red mana fix. I think you guys call them commandments over there or something. They're just like negs 4s in the back is like incredibly strong and stuff like that. And any kind of like cheap removal that can kill like that goes over 5 damage is essentially very good this format as well.
So going off of like what you might think is strong there and everything, outside of like your deck specifically, what do you predict might be a deck that'll probably top 8 or top 4 in this tournament? Because obviously I'd assume you're pretty confident your deck would be one of those as well.
Yeah, so like if I weren't going to go like in a tier list, Green White would be tier 1. In tier 2, like just under tier 1 into like the middle tier 2, tier 1, it would be like Alter Hanzo, and then Harvesting Season Adam, which is really I think the best aggro deck going forward. Because what happens is with the Harvesting Adam deck is like if you don't respect it enough, you can just like lose turn 3. And the list like that the Australians have been developing essentially like kills you turn 3, turn 4 with a generically decent hand of like 2 to 3 cards. You don't need like a perfect hand because your mills, like statistically, you should be seeing like some really good mills, especially when you're playing like the Human Revive Rune and stuff like that, and you're going first. I feel like that deck just puts on too much pressure for a lot of decks to handle, so it like bumps everything down. Other than that, I feel like there'll be a couple Alter decks in top 8. I feel like a couple of Rogue decks can make it. They're like many people think like the Rune rule is just outclassing a lot of Raya rulers, but I can tell you like for a fact that like Shayla is incredibly strong. Just people don't know how to build her in other states, like in other countries as well. Over here we have like, well, my team personally since Sydney started the year was being like playing Shayla in resonator based formats because what people don't realize is Shayla is a deck that is garbage if you play Resonators, but it's amazing if you just play 40 bounce cards.
Yeah,
and it's essentially what our the Shayla list from Sydney did is like you play a bunch of bounce spells to fill your opponent's hand. They have to discard. They commit too much to the board, and you play Thunderstorm, which just puts everything to the bottom of the deck. Then you can play Misty Dragon at some point for 4 mana, and just attack for 9, flicker it end of turn, or so you don't Thunderstorm it away, and you just got to attack. So it's a very slow, grindy deck. But I feel like people don't know how to play that style of deck. Like when people think of Shayla, they think of like the Giga Thunder Fish stuff like that, and like the aggro Thunder stuff, and that's not super good. I feel like the hard control where you're playing like 4 spinning Aqua Souls, 4 Pathly Part, 4 Shayla's Return, 4 Dragonlord's Breath, 4 Foresight is just the best way to build that. And then there's like other random rogue rulers that I think like I consider rogue, but you gotta respect it. So Thunder's rogue, but like not everyone would play it. And then there's also like Keurig, I guess. Like I'll take Keurig's always in contention because like going second is Keurig and no one's playing Powerless Dragonoid and you just go double PL turn 1 and turn 2 and they can't 1-drop kill them is just good game, like incredibly strong and good game for the most part.
Yeah. And that's one thing I'd always like, and I was glad when I saw that because Shayla was one that I'd always seen that it looked like she had really good support and really good cards and combos and stuff that could happen, but just it felt like no one was piecing it together at the time, and so it was cool to see someone do that. Because I thought I'd never built a Shayla deck, but it was one that each time the spoilers and cards came out that I was like, this seems like it should be good. I just don't understand why it isn't. But
yeah, and so Shayla has the added benefit of Shayla's Foresight's the only card in New Frontiers that can manipulate the graveyard while Dark House is on the field because it targets the player and not the graveyard, and it doesn't remove them, it shuffles them back in. So that's the only card in New Frontiers that while Dark House is on your opponent's field that you can manipulate their graveyard still to an extent. So it's incredibly powerful, and because she gets also replace a card of the deck and an attacking resonate, she gets all the modes. It's very insane. And even if you're not playing Shayla, like the Loki list I was testing leading to Worlds was playing like multiple copies of Shayla's Foresight. My Green White Atom list has like 1 Shayla's Foresight in the sideboard because I can go multicolored quite easily. And because of that, I also think people don't realize that Light of the Moon, which is quick cast to white free chant. Like it costs 1 white, but it's for free if you're playing in the Rune area. It gives you barrier. That card's insane. So in like the people that are playing like Kaguya decks and stuff like that, to turn Kaguya on, it's like play Sandstorm obviously, but Sandstorm's really bad when everyone's just playing Lila. You know, because you Sandstorm second if you're second, they've got a Lila turn 1. They're gone to their turn 2 with 3 stones. You're so far behind in like stone tempo, and that's how like the green white decks win. It's how a lot of the decks like if the Altar decks play Big Athenia, they're gonna like destroy stones and use the 3-drop to play multiple dudes and get on stone tempo that way. So stuff like that, I feel like is definitely the way to go. So yeah, so in reference, Light of the Moon beats Shayla's Foresight, like for the one time you get to use it, but Foresight like is the best graveyard interaction spell, but it does cost double blue, so it forces you to play a blue deck or a deck that can put dark colors onto the field very early and have the colors available.
Yeah, that's a good point, and yeah, that's a card I had forgotten about as well.
Yeah, so I can tell you like. The people I've been testing with the Australians, like I'll give a shout out to like Ronan Morris, who's from Queensland, he's on Pinkcast, and then Tasman. I'm not even going to say his last name because no one can. Everyone knows him as the Caucasian that stole a World's invite last year from Malaysia. When he thing. That's the meme for him. But like a lot of like those two and me were like been scouring the database for like just random cards that could be good, like, you know, and the stuff like that. And like a lot of them are janky, and there are many like 2-card combos that are exceptionally good this format that not many people kind of realize because of the synergies. So yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like preparing towards, I'm not going to say I'm like confident I'm going to do personally well. I think I will do well, but I feel like an Australian will make top 8, and like if I had to like kind of put a percentage on like an Australian winning Worlds, I'd probably give it like a 70% chance, because I feel like all the players are going incredibly like good compared to a lot of the other people I know going, and then just how much like just the effort of testing is, it's not like how much you test, it's how smart you test.
Yeah.
Essentially, and things like that. But I'm not here to obviously trash talk the other countries, but like, I don't value a lot of the other players in countries going as highly on a list of like who would be the best, etc.
Yeah.
As opposed to some others. But yeah.
All right. Is there we'll sort of wrap it up here, but is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up fully?
Oh, not really. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, just we'll look back at this like when this comes out and be like, this guy's a bloody idiot. What's he on about? He might didn't place top 8 at all. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. The safe, it's just the safe pick for Worlds is going to do well, but I think generally what will win is someone that's put time and effort to look at all the cards in the pool and bring something that's safe but unexpected as well. That's my choice to win, I guess. And there are a few cards I think people can play in various decks that can help do things like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and talking about that. And good luck at Worlds.
Yeah, that's right. You'll see me on the stream either like really early because I bombed out, or because I'm doing well. It's one of those things, right? So hopefully it's the second. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, that was the interview with Lauchlan. Joey, what did you listen to last night? I know I listened to it earlier today, but I just want to see what your takes on that were. Like,
my main takeaways were like they're pretty confident. Like was like probably my overall takeaway. Like they're really confident in their testing. This he's really confident in his placements in Australia GPs have been like really really amazing.
Oh yeah.
So clearly the confidence earned and stuff. Some of the the tech he was talking about. I was kind of thinking like, oh well, that's interesting, but it doesn't really. It's probably not that. I don't know how well it's gonna work. And then I kind of started looking at it. And it kind of started like a lot of it like made sense. I'm still really curious because I don't. Colin talked about it earlier, and then when I was watching it, I believe I saw that. I still don't know if those are main deck cards or sideboard cards.
Yeah, that's so
that
clear.
That he was really talking about. So I'm really interested if it's main board, how he kind of gets around bricking out for some of those cards, or just getting worse cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done enough testing to know what they feel other people will be playing to know if they're going to mainboard it or not. But that is something that I guess wasn't 100% clear on whether or not. I think I assumed it was mainboarded just from the his discussion of the deck. But yeah, I guess he thinks it's possible. I do think he was very confident in his team and his team's abilities. But I think there was a little reserve when he was saying 75 or 70% chance that they would take it. Because I think if he didn't want to sound too cocky because they're confident. They have the what's the word, the numbers to show it,
the results.
Yeah, to prove it. I'm not saying he's not, but no, I think he was a little reserved there because I feel like if I had that confidence and stuff like that, and I was just be a little over cocky, I probably we got this like 98%.
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
the thing is, I feel like since he was on like video and was like in a interview setting, he probably toned it down a lot. He probably definitely thinks it's like a 90-95% chance. But yeah. But no, I thought a lot of his his points and talking like points were all good. I think Shayla, I'm kind of still iffy on, but I think I would love to see like that one of them play that sort of a deck, because like bouncing stuff does seem like it'll be pretty good, especially like if you face what's considered the top deck, which is Alice and Dark Alice and Adam. Like bouncing those Alices is one of the better ways to kind of deal with her. Like you can't really you can't destroy her. You can remove her from a game, which is good, but there's ways to kind of like play around that, and most of that is Blade of Faith, which happens on the opponent's turn. So you get to attack in and you get to drain for a lot. So it's just really interesting. I think bouncing sounds very interesting, and the Shayla deck sounds like it would be cool to see.
Sorry, Colin, over messaging me.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Okay, so if we get top 8 results and it's like, oh, top 8 was all Adam, I'm not sad about that. I'm not hurt about it. It's the end of the format. Some rotations occurring. It was just showing some players and their skills and the abilities to make it top. It would be cool though to see that like something crazy and wild did make it, like a Shayla deck, something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think top 8 will be a lot of what we've already seen, and then I definitely think there's going to be some sort of rogue. There's almost always like a rogue deck that somebody put together with a lot of skill, and he kind of knows what he's getting into. So maybe something like that's going to come in. But
yeah. A little thing on what Colin sent me a message of. He's too sick to talk, but he's not sick enough to have to. He's editing a video. I didn't know how to fetch that sentence. I forgot where I was going with it. He's editing a video, the one we just talked about for Alternate Souls. It's going to be up on the channel soon. And he's just like, I love that every time you play a card or you discard something, you don't announce the name of it, because he's pairing cards on the screen so everybody can see what they do.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, because I didn't say anything. I was just like, this. I'm gonna put this here. But anyways, yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next one?
Not too many about that. Like, I feel like I really like the Fierka tech against discard, because I went back through and pretty much all of the discard is not targeted discard. It's just discard this, discard that. So Fierka is a really good tech against that, and she's like actually pretty solid. So yeah, it's a very interesting take. I hope they do well and stuff. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah.
Also, if any of the Australian players are listening to this, Lauchlan, if you just want to give the team a shout out, maybe put a post of all who's on the team. Cause I know I asked, at least when I talked to Patton, all the rogues who made it through. So it'd be cool to know, see recognized names of who all made it to Worlds this year for Team Not Nice.
Do you have any other thoughts?
No, that was about it. Just I like I said, I hope something rogue kind of makes it through. Deck-wise, a rogue deck makes it through.
Yeah.
And like Shayla, I think it'd just be really cool to see Shayla and it just throw everybody by surprise.
I would be pretty shocked. I would definitely.
He touched on it a little bit. I think mentioning how some of the older rollers didn't hold up, like Gil, right?
Yeah. No. That's Josh.
Okay. I think it got mixed up. I think he said they still had viability then, right? That's what he was trying to make the fight for. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
I'd be surprised. Like, you think a Gil can make it through?
I mean, I would take. I don't really know how the Shayla deck works.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'd take Gil to make it through over Shayla. But I still feel like that Adam deck, which both Josh and I forgot his name. Sorry. Yeah. They both pretty much said like that's going to be the top deck, or or the top second top maybe deck. But yeah. So I just feel like that deck kind of would run over Gil a little bit. But, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about the next interview a lot. Let's go ahead and have that one play now as well. We'll come back and discuss all of it together after that. And now we're actually joined with Josh Patton, team captain, right, of Rogues Guild.
Yeah.
So in our podcast about a week ago, kind of went over some meta things, like what we thought was going to be shown at Worlds. We said some obvious stuff like Atom, Machines, Isis, things like that. Like I feel like some obvious probably picks, and we kind of got reached out by some community members. So we wanted to see, I wanted to ask you your opinion, like kind of where you approach the meta going to Worlds? Like, what's the play? Like, we have some members of Rogues Guild, right, going to Worlds.
Yeah, yeah. So we currently have Steven and Cole both going to Worlds, and then we have two newly acquired rogues that got their invites before they were rogues. So Derek and Cal are both Rogues Guild, but they'll be representing themselves. But we all decided though that we weren't going to make it a Rogues Guild thing. So we already talked to everybody, and so we got together with the rest of the Americans that got their Worlds invite and created Team USA.
Okay.
So the entire competitive community that got their Worlds invites this year has been training together for like the last couple of months. It's been pretty cool to watch.
That's awesome. And seeing as like this whole podcast will air pretty much after day one or during day one towards the end, it's pretty open to discuss like what were some of the things that you saw tested with, or that you think are you would worry about going into Worlds.
So going into Worlds, basically it was essentially that last set. That last set defined where we needed to be in terms of like the power that we were dealing with. So like that last set put the nail in the coffin that all of the old rulers are just out at this point. You are playing a divinity ruler or you are losing for the most part. The only question left was Gil. But having played that for a little bit, Gil just seemed... The resources didn't seem powerful enough for Gil to keep up with what a lot of the decks we had come up with were doing. Essentially, with the cards that came out in that set, we got a lot of diversity in terms of like the tier 2 cloud, right? That I've talked about it before on a couple of our different shows and podcasts. But essentially, what happens is when you go into a tournament, there's a cloud of tier 2 decks that are always hovering either at top tables or right below top tables for the course of the beginning parts of the tournament, right? So these are decks that you're probably going to end up seeing in the early parts of your day, and oftentimes those decks will ruin your day. They won't make it to top 8. They'll probably fringe at top 16 or top 32 or something along those lines, but a couple early losses to those kind of decks that you really just didn't play around can actually ruin your day. So that tier 2 cloud right now is very big. It is very big. We're talking about Isis, Machines, hell, I'd even put Chamimi in there with her little one trick. IU still decides she wants to come out and just wreak havoc if you're not ready for her. Yeah. And then I would put the diversity decks also in that category of tier 2. So you've just got all of these powerful decks that have full heads of steam by turn 3, turn 4, and they'll come at you from a couple different angles. So also being in multiple different colors, it's hard to prepare for all of those, right? So that was kind of where we were at. None of the divinity rulers, or none of the non-divinity rulers, none of the Rhea cluster rulers could handle the spread that we were just given. And so we switched it up, and we are divinity only through testing at this point now. So
yeah. So what's the approach to this? Like, do you find the best deck, or do you find the best deck could be, or probably more favorite deck, I should say, not best deck, and then you think about something that would work against it as well as what the other tier 2 things are?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So basically, it all starts off with just everyone throws everything in the kitchen sink at the meta, right? So you take the stuff that you were doing, you take the stuff that you've come up with, you take just whatever you want into, whatever testing that you want to do, right? And you just log games. You log games, you figure out what works, what doesn't, and then you just kind of build off of that. Then sometimes you get lucky and you find the nuts, right? You find the deck that it doesn't matter what you throw at it. It has a positive win rate. It is just a very, very good top tier deck. Once you find that deck, then If it's only one, then you're kind of like at a tier 0-ish format. If you find others that are on a good power level with it that have also good win rates against the spread, but maybe kind of battle within each other at the top, then you kind of got to go from there. But for the most part, when you find those decks, when you find the best decks, then you figure out what breaks those decks. And then once you figure out what breaks those decks, you make sure that that deck also doesn't handle the spread. Because if that deck handles the spread, then you have a new best deck, and you just bumped your best deck down to like a tier 1.5 or something along those lines, right? Mm-hmm. So that's essentially all that you end up doing in testing is you just have to log a good amount of games, and it helps when you have a good amount of people working on it too, because obviously this isn't something that one person can just do. It takes a team. It takes a lot of people looking at it from a lot of different angles to come up with the starter pool of decks. And it's actually pretty fun when one person lands on one. Mm-hmm. Then it's all right, let's beat that then.
Yeah. So is Team US essentially on the same page then going into Worlds? Are they all gonna?
I would say Team USA is on the same page. I do not believe that Team USA is going to be on the same decks. Mm-hmm. There is a chance that there might be a little bit of divide and conquer. So our opinion right now is that there is a clear 2 best decks. The one best deck is better against the spread, but less favorable against the other best deck. And then the other best deck is slightly less favored against the spread, but good against the other best deck. You know what I mean? So that's...
Sorry, I didn't mean,
you're good. You're good.
Is happening already, or is it have already happened? Like, can you use names like towards that? Like, this deck's better than this
deck? Absolutely. So we've called the first best deck. We called it the Salt deck. It's like a 4-color, 5-color deck. It can be ran with Hanzo or Adam, and it's essentially you're just playing the best super rares from that new set that came out, right? Mm-hmm. So the Decisive Battle of Valhalla. So you're playing basically a black stones altar package with Layla altar, but then you're also playing Dark Alice, Kaguya, Perfect Loki, Athena, and so that's 4, and then you're sideboarding into Zeus Alice. Mm-hmm. So they're your 5 most powerful super rares out of that set, and they're all in one deck, right? And so we call it, even though it's a mono black deck, we call it, it's a 5-color deck because you're also running Satan. So there's your red, you're running Kaguya. So green, white, you're running Perfect Loki. So you got some blue. And so you end up having every color even there, even though you're mainly black, right? And so Dark Alice fixes you, and so does Mana Transmuter in those cases. So what we found is that there's, with that deck, you can play out of grave, out of deck, and out of hand with relative ease, right? You can cheat from just about everywhere. So the altars cheat from deck, your commands, your marches, they cheat from grave. Then with Dark Alice or Mana Transmuter, you have free reign to kind of play anything from hand. So really you're just kind of focusing on there's a soft lock in there where you're playing Athena sometime on your turn, recover 3 stones, tap all their stones, blah, 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 go about your turn, and then pass turn before draw, dropping Perfect Loki. And then so what that does is, because you played Athena, you've completely tapped out your opponent's board, so they have absolutely no responses to your Perfect Loki. It is absolutely uncounterable, uninteractable. There's nothing they can do about it. So then what you do is you wipe their board and you put a neg on their board during their turn, right? So when Perfect Loki hits, it it's a final battle. You just did an instant speed final battle on your opponent's turn. And for the most part, now you have an Athenia, now you have a perfect Loki. That's at least 16 damage that you're representing on board. They can't play anything on their board, right? So you get into like a pretty good lock at that point. So it's relatively consistent. And that is the deck that I believe to be the best deck. It sometimes loses to itself, and that's kind of where everything's at in the meta right now. Is all of your most powerful decks are fringe greedy, because like when you're playing 5 colors on a mono black stone base, I think we play 1 light and 1 green stone, maybe just the 1 light stone, but sometimes that can come and bite you in the ass. But when, like I said, when you have a heavenly fruit, when you have, or not heavenly fruit, when you have a harvesting season, you play commands and marches, and you have an altar, and you're still playing Layla packages. There's many ways to get that first Dark Alice out to fix your will. So, and hopefully you'll see a little bit of that on stream, or already have at this point, because Steven has done a fantastic job of piloting that deck. So then on the other side, the deck that beats that deck more times than it loses is the green-white Atom Control. Okay. So green-white Atom Control is doing basically the same thing. It's basically doing the same thing that the Salt deck is, but it is white-green. So it's not playing any of the black cards, but you still have a couple perfect Lokis. You have a lot more Kaguyas. You're more consistent on your Dark Alice. And you play Athenia as well, I believe. So you're still playing for the same soft lock, but you're harder of a control on that one, right? So it's a different twist on the deck. You get to play stuff like you get to play Zeus's Grand Lightning, which is a fantastic white rune that we have right now. You get to play the Traveler. You run 4 of those in your main deck, and you don't play it for the greedy way that we've been playing it for like the last 4 months. You play it now for draw 3, basically. Yeah. And that just really helps you get to all of these powerful resonators that we're playing now, right? So your turn usually starts off with something like an Explore the Unknown for free, try to find a Lorite, try to find a Kaguya or something, pass turn, and then you can do one of 2 things. So since this is coming out the day of, I know that Cole has been working on something spicy. Usually the second rune is a Sandstorm. And that gets you your 2 rune to get Kaguya to cost 2. But Cole is currently playing Light of the Moon, which is instant speed, free white rune that makes you have barrier as a player, right? And so you can disguise that one pretty well, because nobody actually plays that rune, and that is literally the only free quick cast rune that you can play, right, in those colors. And so so you can disguise that you have Kaguya Will ready to go with that one. So it's a little bit of a different pace. When it, in terms of being better against the spread, we believe that the Hanzo deck is, the Hanzo Salt deck is better against the spread, because you have Sealing Scroll, and because you're still the mono black Lila altar, right? So it was pretty good at stunting a lot of early aggro. Swinging it into an O2 that ramps is kind of nice for you and stuff on those lines. And there's really nothing that green deck or the green white Atom really has answers for. What we found is the green white Atom struggles against machines early. So like just the standard machines play of Vivian into Guinevere into like Donadrone, or now the new 4-drop like that really hurts this Atom deck, because what this Atom deck wants to do is it wants you to play like a 2 or a 3 cost and cancel it for 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're spamming out 1-drops and no easy way to answer the board, you have to be playing Light of Koronos, which I don't believe is a card that we are maining, because this green-white control deck doesn't play the Giants. It's not a greedy big cost deck. So that's kind of where we shook the meta out to. I know that I have no idea what Charlie's playing. I have no idea what Sam is playing. Jacob Dame is still praying that he can get an aggro deck, which we do have one. We have what we call the 9,000 IQ deck. It is obnoxiously good. It is probably the best aggro deck in format, and it is not even a red deck. So this is the 9,000 IQ. If you haven't seen it, it's been on our channel a couple times over at the Rogues Guild Twitch. And it is basically just super aggro grave reanimation. And it's taking advantage of the fact that you can Majin Subjugation a 1-drop to get an Alice. And it's also taking advantage of the fact that Invitation to Purgatory allows you to play all black and still guarantee you have red on turn 2. And Invitation to Purgatory guarantees put an Atom into the graveyard.
And which one's Invitation to Purgatory again?
Invitation to Purgatory is 2 black, produce red and black, search your deck for a card, put it into your graveyard. If you have Satan removed, search your deck for a second card and put it into the graveyard. Yeah. So what you do is you just turn 2 Invitation, produce red and black, put the Atom into grave, probably swing with your Majin Dark Elf because you hit a Nullstone right out the gate because you're a god. So you 6 turn 1, 6 turn 2, Majin Subjugation for a 10/10 flyer with lifelink, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You probably then play like a Heavenly Fruit, go ahead and flip your Einheiser summon, either get the 8/8 white card that comes out, swing in, or go get yourself a Joan d'Arc. Like, the deck just goes stupid fast, and you're well below 20 by turn 2. Gotcha. And so that deck is potentially somebody should be playing that. If we were going about it with if we were going about Worlds with complete selflessness, like if we could have absolutely gotten everybody on board, then what would have happened is I think all 3 of those decks would be represented. Mm-hmm. And it would be in the sense that you can't beat all 3 of those. There's no deck that beats all 3 of those. And with tight play, you can get to a point where one of you had to have made the right meta call. Yeah. You know.
Do you think anybody attending Worlds is going to be running machines at all? Like, is that going to be a play?
Oh yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter if it's a Worlds tournament or not. A tournament's a tournament. People are going to always play tier 2 decks. Mm-hmm. Always. And they're not going to know that it's tier 2. Mm-hmm. So ISIS and machines are going to be represented. They are stupid good decks. They really are. They both just go off on turn 3. The problem is that these other decks that we've come up with have good handles on those decks, mm-hmm. right? What we have found is every tier 2 deck is linchpinned around a 3-drop card for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. So ISIS is linchpinned around ISIS. Your machines are linchpinned still around Lancelot. Your Chimimi is linchpinned around Chimimi. Let's see, there was one other that I was... Oh, your diversity decks are linchpinned around Alice, right? So there's a strategy, there's with that last set that came out, that was essentially what shaped every deck, right? And so IU's going off on turn 3. Every deck is going off on turn 3. right?
Yeah.
And so I guarantee there are many Worlds players that have had a lot of success with their ISIS, have a lot of success with their machines, and they're going to give it a go. They're absolutely going to give it a go, and they're going to beat people along the way. Like, it's not going to go without, but there is somebody that is going to be trained against those decks, and good or bad matchup, they are going to take out those decks. So,
well, we'll wrap it up there. It'll be exciting to kind of see what happens and what kind of has happened already, I guess you'd say.
yeah, Team USA, let's go.
Thanks for joining me. It was fun. What to have you on the actual podcast sometime soon. It's been a while.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. It has been. I love you guys.
And yeah, we'll see everybody later. We'll go back to the main podcast. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so we made it back to. I remember how that one ended. So I'm like coming off of that, like. Woo.
I don't remember how it.
I didn't know how to end it, so I was like, "Oh,
okay.
back to the podcast."
I see.
He's
that's
like,
a good transition. Good memory.
So yeah, I was there for this one, so I mean, I just want to get more heavily your takes on this as well, and then we'll do some. I have a question for you before we wrap up, but go ahead.
I thought it was a really interesting interview talk. One thing I wanted to go back to the other interview was like, I found it interesting how he said they were testing like more in depth and like more like really going into like the database and stuff. Whereas Josh, it seems like they I'm just interested how that like testing, like what people think which testing is like better or who's testing better. I think the way Josh and them like test their decks like makes a lot of sense. You make a deck and then you run it through every other really strong deck, and then you try and make decks to beat that deck, and if that deck beats that deck and then it beats all the other decks, then that's the new best deck.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when you think about like what they both say. It's like,
yeah,
they test a lot, but then like Lauchlan said, it's like it's not about testing a lot; it's about testing smart, which is actually a really good point. It's like you can play a million games against all these different decks, but it's like you gotta know that the lines you're making. You know what I'm saying? Like,
which is why like I'm really interested in how that'll play out. Like, right now, I'm kind of trying. I'm like setting up this like USA versus Team USA versus Team Australia happening. It's like you have to test smart, and and it's like like I think it's super interesting. So like what is testing smart? Like, is this going to beat out like their testing and stuff? I don't know. It's just really interesting. But I thought a lot of his...
It's real exciting, too. Just all these countries are just, like, they're doing their thing in their own country with their own people, and then they're just gonna find out this weekend who did the best.
Yeah. I thought Josh had a lot of good points and insight into the whole, like I had never really heard about the tier 2 cloud. It's like, oh, people are going to be playing tier 2 decks, but they don't know they're tier 2 decks. So they're bringing ISIS, expecting to win with ISIS. They're bringing maybe Fushi. I don't know if it's tier 2, but expecting to beat to top with Fuji. He was even giving Keurig like you can't discount Keurig. He could just go on a crazy aggro bend, but. So like that was really interesting to hear about. Like the actual two or three decks he said were the best decks. I thought the Salt deck that he was talking about, where you just jam in every single ultra super rare in, is like, I don't really like that. I think that's kind of like not. It sounds like you're just playing like. It sounds like 4 or 5 color good stuff, and I don't really like that's really crazy.
I think that's one of the alternate deck names was 5-color good stuff or 4-color good stuff. So
yeah, that's the like magic terms and
Yeah.
stuff for stuff. But so like that's really interesting to have that kind of pop up and have them be testing with, because if you think about it, it's just like, oh well, let's just jam all the best cards in and the deck does really good. It still runs on the whole like Dark Alice kind of package and stuff, and getting all those stones online and stuff. I do think it's interesting how he was talking about, you can run it with Hanzo or Brunhild and stuff, and he was talking about the graveyard card, where you pitch cards to the graveyard. But I was trying to remember, like, how are you supposed to get Dark Alice online with like while playing Hanzo and stuff, because you don't have Adam to pitch into the graveyard to turn on Dark Alice or turn on Alice. So I mean, I would have to see like a deck list, or because I remember he was explaining using the rune card that's 2 darkness, that gives you darkness and fire, and then you throw something in the graveyard. Yeah, but it's like, do you run that? Like, is Adam running that? Are you playing Adam and then you pitch Adam? So I wasn't really clear about that.
You can't pitch Adam, right? Doesn't Adam Lane work with Adam?
Right. That's why.
But I mean, if it's a Hanzo and you just need Resonator, Chant, Addition, like there's 3 targets already that you can start searching off of that, and then the last one's a stone, which they probably don't have issues sacrificing a stone if it means you get there.
Yeah, I guess. Like I said, I would have to see like how that deck runs. I feel like
that's probably part of the salty part of it. You're like, well, no, this deck shouldn't work.
Clearly,
and then it makes something like you just salty about it.
I mean, it sounded good, and he said when it's strong, it's it's really really strong. The other deck he was talking about, the more normal Adam, Dark Alice and stuff deck. I thought he brought up a good point that it suffers a lot to the Brunhild version, which runs Blade of Faith, because you can remove their Alices, and that's one of the strongest cards for them to play. So, I thought the analysis was really interesting. I'm curious what specifics they're gonna bring, like if they have any other like sideboard, like secret sideboard text, like the other interview did. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was gonna cut you off. I thought it was interesting that in both interviews, they both did is the word discount, like they don't acknowledge machines as an actual like competitive deck, which having so Colin did the interview, and then I didn't see that footage for the Lauchlan interview yet, but I did Patton's, and then I saw the Lauchlan one after that. So when I was listening to Patton, I was like, ooh, is that like a bad cause? Machine's actually gonna be good? And which is why I made sure to ask him that question, because he I liked his answer. He's like, people don't know that it's not a good deck, but they'll want to run it anyway, so it will be there type of thing.
That was, I guess I think they were relegating machines to tier 2, but well, I feel
like they're doing
definitely
it lower
said
than that.
No.
No?
Like I'm pretty sure
tier 2,
Josh
but on
said,
the outer.
No. Josh said machines is like really really good, but that like I'm trying to remember what his exact wording was, but from what I remember, it was basically like, oh no, like machines are still really really good, and it's still a really good deck. It's just not as good as this other stuff, and it's not as good as maybe people think.
Which is again what kind of the point Lauchlan kind of had at the same time, is just like it's not there either. Like people will probably show up with it, but it shouldn't perform well against all the others. That.
Yeah, like if me not knowing a whole lot about it, like I feel like machines would beat up like a Shayla deck or something,
Yeah.
So who knows? but yeah, I also thought the aggro deck that he was talking about with Einharger summoning, pitching Majin Dark Elf and stuff, it sounded super cool.
Which like, when he said it's an aggro deck without running red, did he mean like without running a red ruler? Because he then mentions the Majin Dark Elf, and I was like, well, that's a red card.
Yeah, I think it was probably just not running
a focus on red, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I forgot what the third part of that combo was. So
I don't know. I've seen some interesting stuff. Like if anybody hasn't checked out already, they run gauntlets every now and then on their Twitch channels, which is twitch.tv/Rogues Guild, and I've seen some interesting decks. Some like really exciting stuff that people are putting together, because they'll do their own decks against a main themed deck for the week, like say Trinity or something like that. And then they'll do like maybe a guest viewer or maybe a patron that can jump on and do a game. And it's cool seeing the decks that some people just come up with. Like a long time ago was like, oh, okay, well, what that Woody meme where it's like, I don't want to play with you anymore, with like with Joan of Arc and some of the fun shenanigans that she was working with. Like think about all the tech cards that she was running in that deck back when Mooseford was a thing. Like you don't see that often, but then I've seen somebody doing some sort of like kind of dark elfish Joan of Arc type of thing again. It's like, oh, that's actually really cool again. Like it's not, I don't know if it's holding out. I didn't watch the whole stream, but it kind of gives some fight. And it's really cool because it is an aggressive deck. Like I remember when I built it and you said this was an aggro deck.
Yeah, I mean, the decks all sounded really interesting, so I'm curious which one's gonna come out on top. I'm wondering if somebody's gonna have a deck that kind of hoses the whole Dark Owls deck and stuff. I thought, oh, speaking of something that I didn't mention, when Lauchlan, right, was talking about Shayla, and he was talking about Shayla's Foresight, was that it?
I think so.
That it targets the player, and they put all their they put their graveyard back into their hand, and they put any magic stones back into their magic stone deck, I think. And like that bypasses Dark Owls and stuff. And I thought that was a really interesting point.
It is, right? Because then you connect it with Patton's one, and he's like, yeah, no, Cole's secret tech is he has a rune that gives you barriers so that you can't be targeted.
Right, yeah.
So it's like all these little counter things everywhere.
I think Lauchlan had brought that up too. But yeah, like, so, and I definitely feel like that's better than playing Sandstorm too. Like that sounded like a really crazy, like secret last minute tech where we're exactly holding up like two stones, but not, representing the runes, so that people kind of play into your cancel is really like that's a really devastating game winning, game losing move right there.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up here. My last question to you is this: like, this is all hype. Like, this is really hype. Like, hearing all these different teams testing in different ways, approaching in different ways, and different mentalities towards it. If you had an paid invite, I know you will only go if it was paid. Paid invite, everything's set to go. You've been playing this entire time. You never stopped. I know when you moved away, you didn't have all these people to play with anymore, and there's no real scene the area you're in. You kept playing. You're on top of the game. You know what's going on, which I kind of feel like you're there. We play. We talk about it. We have this channel.
Yeah.
What do you take with you? What deck are you gonna go play when you go? That's not like call and be like, I'm gonna go play Machines or Panda. It's like you're gonna go there because you want to win. You have no shame in your game. You're going there to win.
Right. Like if I could think that I found some kind of like cheese or meta breaking like deck, like, oh, this deck just hoses Dark Owls, and I'm kind of thinking like, well, I'll play all these Dark Owls decks, so I'll take this deck that I found out, and maybe like kind of like the infamous Zero Bomb deck. Like if I found something like that again, where I feel like it's cheesy enough that nobody's played it, and it's surprising enough that I can get top 8 or I would probably bring that. If I didn't have anything like that, I would probably play just the top deck and jam a bunch of games that I know how to play it, and then I'd go in like I would go in there with the Dark Alice combo, the strongest, whichever meta deck was people were hyping up at the time.
Yeah,
and especially because like it's interesting, we get to hear kind of these pros like thoughts about like little tweaks like Lauchlan playing Gem Bullet and playing Fierka and playing the one cost remove all abilities card, and also playing like Shayla and playing Shayla's Foresight, and it's like at this moment, I feel like the deck list, like the popular meta deck list, doesn't include those cards. Especially the 0 cost card that gives you a barrier to like bait out Kage cancels. Like that's tech that I hadn't heard of, that I haven't really seen it discussed on Facebook, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm not really too active. So let's say like I bring the current meta deck, I could just get beaten by the people who were in the know about that, or who did, brew that up, and then you lose top 8 and stuff. So I think those little tweaks that people are doing to their decks are going to be what kind of separates like the top 8 deck list from maybe other people's deck lists, who maybe they brought Adam and they brought their Dark Alice combos, but they didn't bring they weren't playing Gem Bullet and they weren't playing Fierka, so when they face discard, they lose a lot harder than somebody like Lauchlan, who brought stuff that like brought the perfect deck for discard decks, would be able to stop that stuff. So I find that like really interesting. Like what are the secret small advantages people are eking out of these decks that we've already kind of seen?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have the confidence to run all those like crazy tech cards where it's like, oh, this curveball, I just threw it at you, like I would I'd be playing it safe, to be honest, and maybe it's why I don't top something. I'm not that great of a player. That's why we have TCG Scrubs as our channel name, because we're just your
okay.
What, kitchen table locals players.
Kitchen table. If you were gonna go, same thing, all paid invite, like which, like you've already kind of said you would play like a safer deck. Would you be testing like or trying to test like as hard as you could, or would you kind of be like, oh, I'm just gonna play a couple of the decks?
I would
like
be testing in a different way than they are. They're obviously testing because they, like you've heard them say, like they're looking for that deck. They're looking for that counter deck. They're looking for what can, that main deck. It does a counter that counter deck. So, or all these different things. Like you heard them. My testing wouldn't necessarily be that. It'd be more like, here's my deck. I think I'm gonna play. 99% chance I just picked it up from somebody else, so it's a net deck, and so Adam, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But this would be me saying, I just need to play a lot. I need to know what I'm doing with this deck. I need to know when I need to play Athenia, or I need to know when I need to play Loki. I need to know when I should respond to things. I need to know if my opponent is playing a typical, deck. What am I targeting for a removal of some sort? Like, I just need to know those things.
Yeah.
Which is different than I feel like what they're testing for. Like, I think they know this stuff. They're testing different aspects of gameplay that makes them obviously the better players. But that's kind of where I would come. I don't know if I'd play the Adam deck unless I did get a lot of play in and understood more. Like, here's your lines, here's what you need to look out for. If I didn't have that and only got moderate amount of play, I'd probably just lean back on like a white-red version of Isis instead and just go with that, since that's more comfortable, and I feel like I've had more gameplay with that than anything else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach to it.
I agree. That's probably around how I would test also.
Yeah, but if I had an invite to Worlds, whether paid or not paid, but then I was going, I think I'd put a lot more effort into testing and getting ready for it than not. Like a lot of these nights where we just if beyond recording videos, if we're just playing a game together, like Teamfight Tactics or something like that, I would probably be playing less of that and more testing. Yeah,
definitely. I would be trying to really push like especially pushing more like meta decks and like Oscar, you need to play like this versus me. I can't play your stupid Fuji deck that has dragons in it. It doesn't
but
help.
That's the thing is Colin would be like, no, you can still play those because you're gonna face some crazy curveball dude who's gonna bring his panda deck. Here's my panda deck. So that's a difference between you two guys.
Mm-hmm. But man, what if Panda tops again?
I don't know. Is it capable of it anymore? Colin would argue. See, Colin. Here's the thing: if Colin was here and we asked him some questions about the things we heard, I think he would fight against the idea of machines not being good enough to hold it. He'd be like, no, just because the people playing don't know what they're doing, or they don't know if it doesn't do well, it's just because they didn't operate it correctly. Or he's like, I probably would have done better, but I'm just saying they I feel like I'm around him enough where I got that down. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're very close. You're very close. It's like my favorite thing about listening to his like analyses and stuff is just I always have to remember that he brought Sherry to the GP. They like scrubbed out so hard. I just love it. I love it so much. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. Like Colin's finally like, all right, guys, I'm gonna play the best deck in the format. And
that playing that deck, he only tested against other Sherry decks. And then going to the event, I don't know how many Sherrys he faced, truly. So I think that's probably part of his downfall. It's just is facing other stuff.
Yeah. So I remember when we talked about it, but
like I remember playing against a Lumia and a Rhea, and I don't remember what else I played against because I scrubbed out like round 3 or 4, and then went to go get food, and he got mad because I went to go get food. Mm-hmm. But all right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed those interviews.
Mm-hmm. I did.
We'll see if we can ever do this again for whatever reasons, for whatever else there is in the future. But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you.